Um, Season 5, episode 11. Today's my baking day. My plan, my plan is
I love
to.
because I never know the lead. That's what that comes out to. We, for our many, many listeners, we chat, 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 chat. We on ramp. We sometimes don't even tell each other what we're going to talk about. So I feel like it's like
Oh yeah, we
it,
on
it
ramp and then we don't.
yeah, it's like a lottery kind of a mindset. Because then all of a sudden you just start talking about something, and it may actually be what we were talking about just then or not. I love the fact that you're the baking day. I love it.
I have to bake today because the cookie exchange for my wife's school are due Monday.
Cookies won't bake themselves.
They will not, and it's a busy weekend of hockey, so I need to. We're pod. My priorities: podcast, bake cookies, go to hockey. Um, so this is what I wanted to say, and it's too bad Ramona's not here because my plan today, and you can imagine at like 7:30, I'm laughing. I'm just like an idiot in the house, just laughing as I'm thinking these things to myself, and then just laughing out loud. I'm
Full
putting
out
out.
or chuckling? Full out or
It's a
chuckling?
chuckle. It's a
It's a
chuckle.
chuckle.
I'm
Okay.
putting everything out, and I think, okay, I know what I'm going to do while I bake cookies. I'm going to listen to the "I Wish I Knew EDU" podcast. So it's literally I'm going to have like the iPad over here with the recipe, and then my phone playing "I Wish I Knew EDU." I'll just pick episodes and I'll listen to them as I bake cookies. It's like an homage to. Um, it's an homage in to Ramona's turkey turkey roasting. You know how she
Hmm.
goes all out certain times of the year, just going nuts with the turkeys. That's going to be me today with the cookies.
Nice.
That's the plan. So that's kind of what I'm up to today. Um, but you lit me up there a second ago before we went live. You mentioned something that was irking me this week that now is back. It's at the fore.
Do it. Do it.
I'm having a very difficult time understanding why when someone when someone new joins Twitter, and let's say you influence them to join, okay? Let's just use you as an example. So Chris Clough has a buddy, and you're constantly telling your friend about Twitter and how you're learning, and you follow some really cool people, and some people follow you and interact with you about the content you might provide or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Finally, your buddy's like, I want a piece of this. I want to join. So you're like, okay, so go join. So your friend joins, and then your friend says to you like, well, like, where do I start? What do I do? And then you tweet out, hey everybody, all my followers and anybody listening to me, why don't you give Joe Blow a follow? I don't understand that, and I'll tell you why would you follow Joe Blow if Joe Blow, there's there's no content yet, or there's not a lot of it, or you tweet Joe Blow and he or she, I shouldn't assign a gender to Joe Blow, they um they don't respond, and you're like the whole thing, it drives me nuts. So instead of complaining about it, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I would do with Joe Blow. Are you ready?
So
Because we're never going to remember this episode, right? So somebody take notes.
we are not indexed.
No, we're not indexed, and we don't care to
Someone save
index.
us. Index us, please.
Someone save us. Okay. So here we go. So this is what I would do. So Joe Blow says to me, you know what? This Twitter thing, you talk about it a lot. You do it a lot. I want to join. Okay, Joe, sign up and let me know when you're in. So Joe signs up, and then um, Joe's like, I don't have any followers. I don't know who to follow. So then I say to Joe, and I'd probably tweet this at Joe, because I'd say, you know what, Joe, you need to build up your footprint on Twitter. Like, people, when they go to your page and they don't see anything, they're walking away. Unless I have some clout. This is the clout part that really pisses me off. Unless I have a zillion followers and they're just going to do what I tell them to do, which isn't the case. So here, Joe, let's go back and forth a little bit on Twitter. I'll tweet some things that you respond. That way, when people get to your page, they will see that it's real, like something's happening here. So, I tweet Joe, "Hey, Joe, what do you do for a living? What are your interests?" And Joe writes back, "I'm a teacher. I love geography. I love science." And I'm like, "Awesome, Joe. You know what? You should follow these people." Because off the top of my head, these three or four people are into that type of thing. And so you can engage with them about those topics. The pedagogy, the research, whatever their experience, you can tap into that. And you know what, Joe? Maybe you should put out a couple more tweets about like the work you do. Attach a picture, maybe tag someone in the school board that does the same work or you work with, or tag your school where you work. Like, Joe, you gotta participate here a little bit. You can't just you can't just think that you're going to build this professional learning network without doing any work. It's just not, it doesn't operate that way. And over the years, I've seen people walk away and say, "This sucks. There's nothing going on here." While I'm like giddy in my classroom, people responding to things my class is doing, connecting with other groups, inviting guest speakers into the room virtually because we connected on Twitter. Like, good things can happen, right? Anyway, so that's what I would do with Joe. I wouldn't just say, "Hey, everybody, follow Joe Blow." Why would they want to follow Joe just because I said so? Okay, so maybe some people follow Joe. Joe gets a hit, right? He gets a hit of what that feels like for people to follow you on Twitter, but then it all falls apart because a week later, you're in the same spot you were a week before, but you might have 20 new followers. You're not putting anything out, you're not engaging with anybody, you're not actively trying to build anything. So why would anybody want to follow you? And why is everybody trying to get everybody to follow everybody else? The first thing I say to people when they ask me about Twitter is, "What do you want from it? Like, what do you want to do?" If you want a zillion followers to just come at you all the time, then my response is become a musician. Like, start playing your guitar and push videos out. If all you want is for fans, okay, there's a way to do that. But if you actually want like meaningful conversations or connecting with people who can help you with your work or you can help them with their work, there is a recipe, but it involves doing some work. So having said all that, I saw one of these tweets and I was tagged in the tweet to follow this person. So what did I do? I tweeted the person and I asked, I'm like, "What are you into? What are your interests in school and out of school?" And I was looking for this person to say something so then I could connect them with someone who actually does that stuff. So this person said, "Oh, I like this and this." And then I responded and said, "Awesome. You I recommend you follow so and so because the content they create around this topic is like by far superior." So at the very least you can see a Twitter page where someone is constantly working at sharing their creations and then being open to collaboration with other people. So I felt good that day. That was my contribution. And then I followed this person because they interacted with me. But one day when I'm going through my Twitter, like followers and stuff, and I click on that person and they still don't have anything or they haven't really done anything with it, then I'll just unfollow and move on. That's what you lit me up with. Um, and yeah, instead of being bothered, I did something about it. And but that's what it is. So if you join because somebody told you to join, it's useless. And for the longest time, my wife actually felt that way. My wife was like, "Why would I want a Twitter account for my class?" And I was trying to explain to her the benefits that I've seen, right? And it is clear my wife and I are on separate pages when it comes to this stuff. But I said to my wife, a lot of good has come for me as a teacher and for my students over the years because of that tool. It's lit me up and made me want to go into work. So that in itself is a positive. It's taught students about, the digital world, and that is also positive. Like, I'm reaping some of the benefits now of seeing how the things I did in my classroom years ago have impacted students. Like when I see some former students in the high schools, they say like, "Are you still doing 3D printing? I remember when." And it's usually attached, and I laugh and I'm like, "Remember what subject it was for?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, social studies." And I'm like, bonus, right? Like, you remember what you did and you remember why you did it, and my day is made. So, um, it's really cool. But anyway, yeah, you lit me up about that, and I don't know if we're going to get into the cookie exchange again. I'm sad that that tweet didn't get any traction. I tweeted out to the world, tell me about your educational cookie exchanges and how they work. Are there rules? What are the ins and outs? I got one or two people respond. I'm very sad. I thought that for sure teachers would engage, but oh well. I'm left on my own to live inside my cookie exchange silo and just operate the way I always have when it comes to that.
They just don't care about your content. You didn't
No,
contribute. You didn't contribute well. Or, you didn't have the right person saying, "Hey, Roland, he's kind of new to the cookie exchange conversation. Follow him for more sharp thinking on cookie exchanges." You didn't have the right sort of like amplification, maybe. Maybe that was it. Maybe
so
that was it.
that's what I need to do, eh? I need to tap someone on the shoulder who
Someone
who
to
has
notice.
influence. And no, I just need to come out and ask, "Hey, I need you to look at this tweet and I need you to push it out. Can you help me?"
I'd love to get to 1,000 likes on this tweet about a cookie exchange. Can you help me out? That could work. See, but you're the big fish, bro. Like, you're the big fish. You got a lot of followers. You have that clout. You have that clout. You're the type of person, or you're the type of account that the person that's saying, "Hey, give this person a follow," they're hoping to hook you in because people are watching, right? People are watching. They're watching to see whose tweet of approval is Chids given the sort of like the new person to Twitter. So
That would
so part of this, right? There's a if you look at the list, if a person is um posting out a tweet like that, as in give this new person a follow. So person A is tweeting out about person B. Person B is the new person to Twitter. Person A is going to load up the pick tags and load up their 200, whatever it is, 240, 280 characters with as many ats as possible. And you're going to run your finger down that at list and you're going to say, like, there's nobody on that at list that's like rocking 10 followers. That at list are individuals with 1K plus ish, because the person A that's posting this knows exactly what they're leveraging in amplification. And that's a jump start, right? Like, that's the adrenaline shot to any Twitter account. It's the shot in the arm, and you're just like, whoa, look at all the followers I've gotten. That's amazing. So I think part of where I kind of, my thinking on this is a far better conversation to have, and maybe these happen, who knows, is the person A going to person B saying, like, if we're going to be uh critical media consumers, it would be, okay, if can you be person A in this and I'll be person B, just so I can make this less abstract.
Yep.
The good lesson in this, I think, would be for person A for you to say to me, "Watch this, Clough. You know what? I'm going to get you some followers. I'm going to get you some followers." And you tweet out, hey, Clough, this Clough dude, he's putting up some great pictures and drawings and poetry. Follow this dude. Follow this dude. And then all of a sudden I pick up 100 followers and then have a conversation with me and say, and something like, see, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. If those conversations are happening, cool. But because I think that is what we're doing here. This is an educational tool. Twitter's not an educational tool. YouTube's not an educational tool. StreamYard's not an educational tool. We've just somehow decided that we can use it for educational ends, right? And so with that, looking directly at and speaking directly to the marketing and branding side of EDU. And I wonder about, and I've wondered about this before. I've wondered about the conversations at faculty where they look at digital tools as learning strategies, right? And what those conversations look like. Because the equivalent of, I think in some ways, Twitter in this particular instance is the equivalent of the really, really loud person in class, whoever they might be, screaming at the top of their lungs, this kid here has a question. But what's actually happened just before that is this kid here who has the question maybe was only asking the loud kid the question one-to-one because that's what they feel safe doing. That's what they feel comfortable doing. They weren't necessarily ready to be centered out. This kid has a question. Everyone in the class turns and looks at that kid, and that kid's like, and thinking to themselves, I did have a question, but I was just talking with this person here. Right? So that sudden amplification, that's whiplash, bro. That can be whiplash. And I wonder because that can happen too. Imagine having 10 followers. We see this all the time. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. My DMs were lit up. I all of a sudden had 1,000. It crashed my phone. Like, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. And if that ever, like, I have stuff locked down on my phone so I wouldn't be woken up by it. Right? And believe me, I don't have DMs that are sort of like getting in the way of me living my day. But I think about that too. That sort of responsible kind of like on-ramping into this. And I was an evangelist for Twitter. You were an evangelist for Twitter back in the day. I've done professional development saying, hey, everybody on board. You've done that as well. That was like 10 years ago ish, I think, right? Something?
Not
Longer?
that long, but it was a while ago.
More than 5?
Yeah.
More than 5 to 10, right? So part of the conversation here, say for me, maybe 5 years ago, I was saying stuff like that. And I still don't disagree. I think there's an opportunity here to use it as a learning tool. But I'd like to come back to the idea here that if you're suddenly saying, hey, follow this person over here, that's my on mic scream. I just don't want to blast out our producer in the background that's doing all the editing, right? They're just like throwing down their headphones, Cloughs too. Can I share just a funny moment? So I have had amplification happen to me. It did happen to me once.
You
That
make
I
it sound
remember.
like it's a bad thing. Amplification has happened to me.
Yeah, it has happened to me. Yeah, I'm gonna admit that right here. And it was funny. It was funny because it was Matt Aldridge. Love that guy. Like he's such a solid guy, fascinating guy, right? Like everything. I dig talking with him. I've had like this streamed conversations as well. I like the stuff he puts up. I like his Medium blog. Like he's connecting stuff, and I like some of the things that he's like. He would just as likely talk about I think he's back in the classroom now. He would just as easily talk about, because I think he was doing consultancy before, but he would just as easily talk about that as he would talk about like him messing on his guitar and trying to sort of play different music, and then sort of posting really cool stuff about music, and then just like slice of life posts. Like he's got a well-rounded kind of space of interest. So when he's tweeting stuff out, I like to see that. And we have a little bit of a social relationship, just a little bit of a professional. So one time we were in some sort of a discussion. I posted something up onto Twitter, and he did that. He said he sort of like retweeted something and then said, come on, something in fact of, come on, folks, like it's hard to believe this guy has only has, and I forget the number that he quoted. But what made it really funny, because I don't remember if I DM'd him or but I communicated back, and he had actually read the numbers wrong. And he had read it like wrong in a really funny way. Like somehow, can't believe this guy has less than 800 followers. But the number actually was less than 400. It was like 399, not 799. And I actually messaged him back and like, yo, dude, I actually have less than 400. But I appreciate the amplification. Right. And then you have the LOLs, LOLs, LOLs afterwards. So it has Chiz, this has happened to me. I would say, I was prepared for the hundreds of new followers that was going to come from that. I think I got maybe five, six, right? So, and
Are
this
they
is
still
no,
around? Are they
what's
still
that?
around? The 5 or 6, are they still with you, or are they gone?
They're probably, I don't know, because I think I've shut down and opened shop like 2 times since then, right? So,
Your
yeah, I
Twitter
don't
account
know.
reminds me of bankruptcy. You just walk away from it, and then you build up your credit, and you're back. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, well, maybe that's the better way to flex.
Hey, any way
What's
people
what's
wanna
that called in
flex
video
is good.
gaming? What's that called in video gaming? You sort of feel like you finish the game and then you come back. Is that called prestiging?
Oh, I
Someone
don't
out there
know.
knows this, but there's a term for that where the kids they kind of finish a game or they level up to a point where I just don't know if it's you're doing the game over at that next higher level, but you don't have any of the resources. It's just the knowledge of how, like what you're actually existing in is this space of knowing how to do it, and you have to do it again at that level. So maybe you make it to you start at level 1, you finish the game, and then you come back at level 2 or level 3, 4, 5, whatever the levels are, but you don't have any of the resources or there's some limitation on it. I think it's called prestiging back in the day.
Dude, I have to say I've done it to Fortnite. When I first started Fortnite, I was trying, your experience points or whatever, I was trying to get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
100. Now, I don't even care what they are. I just go into the game and actually, often I find myself jumping into a game with a certain goal in mind and not
Mhm.
like my goal is not to be number 1 at the end of the game. My goal is to find a certain type of vehicle, drive it to a certain place, hang out at that place, do some fun stuff. Like I I think I'm vibing on what you're saying because it's not about it's like you said, it's not about like the stuff, it's about your understanding. And I wish I knew what that was called, but I've done it many times where yeah, you win a game, then you go back in, and for me, I go back in to play because I want to improve my skill, right? So if it's like a shooting game or something, I've won the game. Now I want to go back and I want to do certain things within the game to provide me with like a greater skill of whatever it is that is. It's like my son, I love this about both of my boys. When they play a video game and it's a sports one, they love to establish their own team and character, right? So they actually take the time, whereas I'm just like, I'm sloppy. I just throw it in. I want to play an exhibition game. Let's say it's hockey. I just want to play, I just want to play the game. And then I look at them and they're sitting there for, hours upon hours, not in the same day, but over time, building a character, building a team, and then using that character and that team to win the championship. Then when it's over, they don't say, okay, I'm done. They're like, okay, I'm going to establish a new team and a new character. And it's like they get it, right? Like they've won, they've accomplished that goal, but now their goals are much more detailed. And that's the beauty for me. Like when I see them doing that, I'm like, yeah, video games are not bad. Like it's anything can be bad, right? Like I love cookies. Eating them all the time is gonna be bad, but cookies aren't bad. And it's the same with video games. And it's like my whole world right now, my whole job revolves around kids that don't sleep at night. And I'm like, like every now and again, sure, it's cool to stay up at night. But when you've been doing it for a year and a half, and now it's impacting like the way the world works in terms of if you'd like to finish school and go do something else with your life,
Mhm, mhm.
it is not compatible. It doesn't work. Um, dude, yeah, I'm like every day. That's every day. I'm like, oh yeah, tell me about your sleeping. Well, I don't sleep at night. Yeah, and they look at me like, are you surprised? I'm like, no, you're like the 80th kid that said that to me. I don't sleep at night,
I looked up prestiging, so we
and
were kind of on the right track. Well, one of the definitions, it was popularized by Call of Duty 4 back in the day. And other games do this now. It's the idea that you get up to maximum level of experience. Actually, funny. Okay, so this is kind of funny how this connects. One, Matt Aldridge, big gamer, big video gamer. I know, a year ago we were trying to hook him into the Geezer Gaming, come out and do a couple rounds of Fortnite. Remember we had those convos, come on out and play.
yeah.
But
Actually,
it
when you mentioned his name, I was a little sad that I've never played with him. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. We haven't had that play date. Okay, so to reach the maximum level of experience in a multiplayer game and reset your character to do it all again. And I think you can sort of, so you still have the experience, you've got the knowledge, you sort of know. So I think there's different ways to prestige playing the same levels over again or the same campaign, or leveling up to the next, like starting at easy, then move up to normal, and then you play the game again. And the prestige is that you're able to, navigate, negotiate probably more dangerous waters, and all you have is the lived experience of doing it once before. Um, so you're using that loop, right? And I think out of that comes, some I heard some new one term, remember grinding? I think we talked about that, the grinding, like you're just trying to get all the stuff. So I'm
hmm
imagining if you're grinding the game and getting all the stuff at easy level, if you prestige, you're probably going to try and prestige at the next level up and get all the stuff there as well. Cause that would strike me as like you're doing very well because there's going to be tougher levels, tougher bosses if you move up a level. And if you can still get all the stuff and the Easter eggs, then you've done well.
mm.
I heard a new term, actually. Jake and Maddie told me last night, calling sweating. So
Sweating.
grinding, yeah. So grinding is more the and who knows if this is, I mean, they throw the jargon, but it kind of makes sense. Sweating is the more, so grinding is like a term of honor. Like you grind it out. So you're going to grind it
Mm.
out. It's like us on the podcast back in the day. Like you're not bragging necessarily about doing it. That's just how you roll with the podcast, doing the editing and the post edit and all that kind of stuff, post production, chasing the next thing. That was the grinding. Sweating is where you're doing it for external sort of factors. So you're trying to do that grinding, but you're doing it for the clout.
Mm.
So the sweating part of it, I think somehow this connects back to what we were talking about with the Twitter stuff, right? The sweating part. The truth of it is that, I'm looking to follow individuals that I perceive are grinding it out, not someone that's sweating, waiting for more followers.
hmm
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Complicated.
It reminds
Can
me of
I?
that one teacher where she's like, "Hey, I'm new to Twitter. Follow me," and she ended up getting like over 100 followers, and then now the account is silent. It's like,
Mhm.
lady, talk about whatever. You've got this. You've got all these people now. Like, do you not see the potential there? You've got all these people who are listening. What are you gonna say? She said nothing. And then I'm like, why is everybody following her? Like, man, it seriously boggles my mind. If somebody followed me and then they stopped and they're like, yeah, you know what? I don't care about the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't care that they scored a goal and that you're tweeting about it.
Or the cookie exchange.
Whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm clogging up your feed. And you know, uh, I think in my situation there are a lot of people who follow me who do not follow a lot of people. So then my garbage keeps popping up on their feed all the time. I could see how that get pretty annoying really fast. I get that. So then don't follow. Like that's, I'm not in the game for that.
The game. The
It's
game.
the
We're in the
game.
game.
I'm not in the game for that. I'm
But we
hunting
are
for
in the
something
game.
else. I'm in the
But
game.
we are in the game, yeah.
I'm in the game.
Can't deny that.
I'm not hunting for I'm hunting for different things than what they think I'm hunting for.
Prestige, yo. That's what it is. You're grinding it out for prestige. But not posting up hashtag prestige. That's the way it goes.
So I have to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
dude, like I'm walking around daily salivating, thinking about those Korean hot dogs. Like I'm dying. I don't know what to do.
The Chung Chun.
Chung Chun
Yeah.
Korean hot dogs. If
Yeah,
you got
rice
it,
dogs. Korean rice
rice
dogs.
dogs, my apologies. You need to check them out in Newmarket. I don't know where else they are.
They are.
But
There are other places too,
you,
so you can
do
find
I?
this.
You know what? With all the places my son goes to play hockey,
You're finding one.
we've got to hit a center that has that, right? Like, there's
Yep,
no
I think
way.
so.
There's no way. I was in St. Catharines last night, but it was late, and I can't feed my son those things before a game.
Dude,
Like,
you
it
got to
won't
hit a
work.
Bomba Witch.
They,
Open till 2 a.m.
oh,
Open till 2. Remember that? 2 a. You hitting one of those heavy sandwiches at 2 a.m. That's a mistake. That's a mistake, right? Like, I wouldn't have even done that, I don't think, back in the day, university style. Nah, I probably would have.
no,
Like,
you
when I
would
think
have. I
about,
would have too.
because the place I went to, the place I used to hung at, get this, the bar that I hung around the most, there was 2 in Guelph. Any listeners ever on this feed thinking about Guelph back in the 90s? Used to go to this place, 2 different places. One was called Van Gogh's Ear.
Hmm.
Another one was called the Trashateria. Trashateria was more where I liked I would hang out, the Trashateria. So whatever you conjure in your brain as far as what a place called the Trashateria could look like, you're probably on point. Like, if you're thinking like ridiculously dirty bathrooms, you're probably right. If you're thinking like sweaty, slippery dance floor, you're right. Crowded everywhere, you're right. A bar that's just like a wooden plank bar with fridges behind it and like sharp splinters along the side, you're right. Like, it was a, you know what, I guess it was my first introduction to a dive bar, but it was where we went to dance, saw some good bands there. It was cool. And right beside it was a place called Jimmy Jazz, there was a door that connected the two, and that was more kind of loungy, relaxing, I guess, but relaxing, grungy too. And then Van Gogh's Ear was like this artsy fartsy early. It was like a hipster kind of a place. Van Gogh's Ear, right across like a street from each other. The reason I mention this is that when we would leave the Trashateria, we'd go to one of 2 places: either La Pizza, where I first discovered that broccoli and tomato on a pizza can be good. I would never, and like, we're talking raw broccoli, just chunks of it on there, but they made a delicious pizza somehow out of that. Doesn't make sense, but it worked. Or Sun, which was right beside, and you could get like 2 plus rice or 2 plus noodles, kind of a styro box of greasy indigestionness, at like 1:30 in the morning, and everybody's just standing out on the street eating this stuff. So even though I said I'm not down with Bomba Witch at 2 a.m., I'm using my 50-year-old metabolism to place judgment on my 22-year-old or mindset. And I would have been, if Bomba Witch was there, I'd be rolling in for a Bomba Witch. Although the only thing that might have kept me from doing it, like the Sun box was $5. Like, you got a lot for $5. The slice of pizza was as big as your head. It was well, I have a big head, so it was a good deal. It was a big slice of pizza, and it was like $2.50. You get a pop with it. You got $4. You're fed at 2 a.m. in the morning. Bomba Witch, relatively speaking, I don't know what they would have charged back in the day, but it probably would have been too expensive for me, because where we got that sandwich we got was a $20 sandwich. Delicious. And we split it, and at $10 for what I ate, like that was a everything meal that I wanted. I still had some the next day. I had it for breakfast.
That's right,
I
you
had
did.
I had the I had the I had the nub of it the next day.
I'll never forget the moment where we're sitting in the place eating it, and you said, "I remember when we came in and you found out that we couldn't just get a half. We had to get the full." And you looked at me and you're like, I don't know. Like you were the
I was
moment of
concerned.
yes, a moment of concern that I don't really see from you often. And you were like,
I
you were
I
like, I don't
betrayed my cavalierness.
you're like, I don't know if like you're like eating this whole thing and then going to another place is gonna be a problem. And I'm like, let's just do it. Like, whatever. And then you said, yeah, I'll just eat what I can, then I'll save the rest for the next day. And I'll never forget sitting at the table, you stopped. You're like, okay, I'm out, I'm done. The rest is going home. And I'll never forget this. I looked down at mine and I'm like, nah, I'm not stopping.
No,
I'm not stopping.
you're like, I'm going through, brother. I'm going through. I'll see you on the
there's
yeah,
no next morning for me for this
I'll
thing. It's
see you
now
on the
or
other
never.
side.
Yeah. And
Tell my family I love them.
I packed it in. Okay, so I'm feeling a little euphoric at the moment.
Okay.
Okay. Apparently,
Teachers on Fire podcast sent us a message.
what? No.
Oh, okay.
Mrs. Lyons Library says she's listening to us though.
Hey,
And
Beth.
yeah, I call her Mrs. Lyons Library. Yeah, Beth. Um, she says she's liking the flow of our conversation about Twitter following content curation. There's lots to chew on. I responded and said, hey, leave a comment here and we're happy to like directly talk about whatever it is that you're thinking or commenting on. Anyway, Chung Chun. Apparently, there's a location here in Waterloo. No,
Dude.
no, dude, don't even, because I clicked on it and where it says it's located, it's not located there because I was at this plaza yesterday getting dinner for the family and it's not there. So
Hmm.
what I need to do is I call somebody because
Is it
like
coming soon? Dude, I think
no,
what
it just says it's there.
is there a phone number?
Um, no. There are other ones that say opening soon underneath the link.
Gotcha.
Not that one though.
The website when I was checking it was tricky.
It's
It
weak.
was
I'm
it was
sorry.
yeah, it was tricky. It was sort of like it had the everything splash page of all the locations. It was a little tricky to actually get even the address of where the one that I knew in town was. That's the other thing too is I didn't curate it well. I think I saw it on Insta. Someone popped it up there
Mm.
and I read it and I was like, I totally want to go there, but I didn't bookmark. I didn't write anything down. So then I go into the Google searches to try and find it. And I couldn't, it was difficult to find. So all I can say is I hope you find one locally, bro. I hope you do.
Well,
I
based
wish
on
that for you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Based on where it's located, I could see there being some mistakes. Anyway, long story short, I need to I'm not even supposed to be in that area today.
Yeah, that can that's yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. But oh dude, if there was one here, Will and I would rock it. Like Will would he'd devour those things. My other son Ben, he might not like the funky stuff so much. Um, but Will would try the funky stuff.
Say the straight up one that I had was delicious. Just the straight up hot
Straight
dog.
up. Oh,
Yeah, the what maybe it was
here
the
I'll tell you what it's called because I
I think it was the chung chun.
menu
Yeah, I think the
the
straight up one is
Chung Chun
yeah,
original
it's
hot dog,
there you go. It's the namesake, right?
the namesake. And then you and I tried the volcano hot dog, a powerful hot dog made with spicy sausage.
It was good. I actually wished I had gotten that one again. The regular was good. I think I was just on the come down from the day before. Um yeah, it was good though. The regular was good, but I think I craved the spice. That's what it was. I craved the spice. I can
Well,
admit that.
I'll
And
tell you.
it wasn't too killer. It wasn't too killer either, the spice. It was good spice.
So some of they're called hot dogs, but some of them don't even actually have a hot dog inside of them. Like
They do
the
not.
the double cheese hot dog is a hot dog with mozzarella and cheddar cheese inside. There's no
Mhm.
hot dog. Now, There is one that's whole mozzarella, and I think my family probably like that too because they
It's
like
like a cheese
mozzarella
stick.
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now what I'm thinking, if this place is actually in Waterloo, I am thinking I'm thinking I would try the jumbo hot dog, a hot dog
I'll
with thick premium jumbo sausage,
yeah.
and I would try probably the cheddar cheese hot dog. So a hot dog with sausage wrapped in creamy cheddar cheese.
Mm.
And I got to get the chocolate one for dessert. The cinnamon sugar chocolate one. Oh my goodness, it was delicious.
It was too much for Jake. It was too much. He enjoyed it, but he was like, he wanted to share it. The only thing about him, he shares it after like it's gone cold. You know what I mean?
Oh
He's
yeah.
not offering near the but he's not offering near the bite when it's like still melty. It's like I can't finish this.
Okay, Mrs. Lyons Library has made a comment. Not on this YouTube channel though. Twitter. She
Oh,
says she likes what we said about not following for the sake of following. She says while she does not want to live in a Twitter silo, she also wants her feed to be useful and push her. She hopes her feed pushes others to rethink and relearn. Twitter isn't an educational tool per se, but it can be used to educate. She finds it interesting which of her tweets get big numbers and which don't.
mm-hmm.
She also finds it interesting that when she gets random follows from people, she has no idea how they found her sphere of influence. I can't disagree with anything she has said. Fact.
Yeah. The I wonder if Beth was ever an evangelist. I wonder if Beth is that person, you know, kind of like where we were, where you know, telling people directly, you got to get on Twitter. You got so I don't say that as much anymore. I just include in my identity, which I let people kind of figure out whether or not they want to meet me there. So my Zoom, like wherever I can in a virtual meeting, it's at Chris J. Clough, like it is on the screen. And then beside it, I also have he, him. If there, I try and so I'm sort of, you know, mentioning the spaces that I can be found in,
Mm.
right? And it's funny, these identifiers like pronouns are also spaces that people can find you in. Their locations, right? Some of our locations. But I'm wondering if Beth back in the day, you know, or even in this day, an evangelist for Twitter ever finds themselves saying, yeah, you know what, you got to get on Twitter. For myself, I'm finding that's it can be like there's libel there. There's a sort of a little sense of libel there. You know, you're telling someone to go there to learn. It's like recommending Chung Chun. Someone's going to try it and they're going to say, those boys are definitely sponsored by this place. And I did not enjoy that experience. They're going to be, you know, scanning and sending their invoices to us and saying,
That's the worst, man. I've got a couple of friends who walk around recommending stuff all day long. And I've
mm.
tried a couple of things they've recommended and not been pleased at all. And now I don't even listen to their recommendations anymore.
Do you tell them not to recommend, or you just kind of let it pass through?
I don't tell anybody what to do
I don't
except
me
my
either. I try
kids. I
not to.
just let them, which is hilarious because people say, well, did you tell them to? No, I'm
No.
not going to tell anybody what to do. You do it. Do I have to listen to you? No. Can I walk away? Sure. Can I laugh at you and like push back? Yeah, why not? But I'm not going to tell you no. Do what you want. Do what you
Can
want.
I
I just don't need to talk to you about it.
I want to do a mini piv.
Do a mini piv and then we're going to punch out because I've got
Yep.
friggin' 8,000 episodes of I Wish I Knew EDU to listen to while I bake my
Nice.
cookies.
And you got your baking going on. I just wanted to land on, I'm actually curious. I would love to be able to interact more with a discussion on rituals and routines with, you know, just one great big Aunt Ed, hashtag Aunt Ed, conversation around rituals and routines and what you notice about yourself in this space. Like, you know, how the routines are, like, what gains do you see? What limitations do you see? What do you do? What we call, because we're talking about this in the on-ramp, the finesse space between routines that are turning into rituals. you know. So here's my basic understanding. So my personal definition: the routine is that list of kind of instructions or steps to get to a goal, whatever that might be. The ritual is where you have an inordinate amount or an elaborate amount of, or sort of inconvenient, let's say, number of extra steps on top as an overlayer to get to that space. So we were talking about, whatever do you have a coffee routine or a coffee ritual? And the space between is the finessing, where you're not quite hitting ritual yet. The steps still kind of make sense, but you're getting there. You're moving from coffee routine to ritual. So coffee routine would be: I wake up in the morning, I have my coffee, I brew it, I have a Keurig, so I do that. The ritual would be if it has to be a specific cup, if it kind of, you know, I have to smell the coffee as it's being brewed. Like, it's the extra finesse step. If the goal is actually just to get a hot liquid in my face, every other step is the finessing towards a ritual. And I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this in my own work in schools. There's the programming that I'm working in. We have a lot of routines, and we often are saying that routines are good for kids. Sometimes they're good for adults, but maybe good for adults too. And then we are sort of observing sometimes where having to break a routine, some of the challenges of that, aka maybe, that kind of shifts into habit making, habit forming, and habit breaking. Yeah. So I would love to just, talk a little bit about, where do you notice that you're maybe the actual, as an educator, some of the rituals that you have are actually limiting your effectiveness as an educator. Too many steps, too ornate, too, maybe in some cases conspicuous as an outward facing. They actually don't serve your purpose. You're doing things just to kind of demonstrate that you can do things. Um, I know for me, that kind of conspicuousness is that at some point I would have believed that I could have only taught if I had a MacBook. I had to have a MacBook. MacBook was the thing that teachers have. I've kind of broken myself of that almost ritualistic thinking and put it back to routine. And like, if I've got a keyboard and the internet, I'm good to go. And what's really, so here's the last thing I'll say on this. One of the sort of moments that broke me of this ritualistic thinking that I had to do, because, okay, so there's going to be stuff that we feel we have to do a certain way. Fine. But here was one glimpse of myself where I was able to do things in a different way. And it's happened to me twice at the school that I'm working at right now, where I forgot my laptop at home. And I was closer to work than I was home. And I guess I could have turned around and gone back and picked it up. But I didn't. I just kind of pushed through that discomfort moment and realized that I could still lean on my routine. Like, my routine was still there for me. The ritualistic elements I didn't have access to anymore, as in the way that my keyboard's set up, like my links, my shortcuts, like all that kind of stuff, the distance that my hands would travel. Like, I would have to get a Chromebook from school and run my day with that. So yeah, just curious right now. As we're creeping up to the new year, new you, one word universe.
Oh no, we're going there, aren't
Hashtag
we?
one word.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Drop it, brother.
I'm not gonna.
Oh, you got nothing more to say on that?
I've got nothing more. I'm just saying, often this season, for this season, people are in retrospect. Hey, even like Chan Pav last week, we were talking about it. Like, they hit a number. They were in a retrospective. I'm not quite sure what they did, but there was some posts out there about, what was your favorite episode? We get reflective time of year. I am curious about other people's routines and rituals, and if they're getting in their way. Are they aware of even it getting in the way? Are they just like, nope? The one thing I will say is that I think in order to know whether or not those rituals are getting in your way, you have to be open to someone going like, why do you put your coffee cup like that on the desk every time I see you? Or why do I see you circle around and you only ever park in one of two spots? And I don't understand it. Like, you need an objective observer. And whether or not you allow that objective observer to exist is probably connected with how strongly you follow your rituals. Because sometimes I think the difference between routines and rituals too is that I think we hide some of our rituals. Like there's something in us that knows like this is kind of like extra steps. Why am I doing this extra thing? I could just do it this way. Geez, if someone noticed that I only stand on this side of the photocopier, what would happen? What kind of a conversation would I have? Or that I have to go back and test the door before I leave the house a couple times, even though I just watched myself to unlock it. Now I recognize that there's elements of what I'm talking about that could also be connected with mental wellness. I understand that. But let's say where you're just a little bit, you're more within the space of just kind of being reflective and looking at what you're doing, your practice, looking at the steps that make it through the day. Would your day be ruined if I parked in your parking spot? I guess is the final question.
I might say to you, why'd you park in that spot?
Mhm. In my case, I would have a bad answer because I was like, I was messing with you. I don't actually want your spot. I saw that you always parked there, so I wanted to see what was actually going on here. Although I might have the conversation too, bro. Like I might actually just ask you because I had that the other day where I spoke with someone. I was like, "Is that your spot? As in, is that I know your name's not on it, but that's the spot that your preferred. Is that your preferred spot?" And they said yes. It's like, okay.
See, the parking thing's interesting because when I did work at St. John's, I did park in a certain spot. And you and I were talking before the podcast about, all parking spots are made equally. And
All
so,
parking spots are made for parking. That's
sorry.
it was yeah,
Okay.
because then you push back. I'm like, okay, I get it. Every spot is designed to put a car in it or some sort of a vehicle for the most part.
And then,
Apart from size dimensions, because that's
right,
really
right.
the only noticeable thing that really differentiates one spot from another. Technically, they make some that are made for smaller cars.
Some spots are better, more desirable than others, depending on your criteria when it
Mhm.
comes to parking your car. Um, you know, anyway, I'm not going to get into that because I should be baking cookies and listening to I Wish I Knew EDU podcast in the next few minutes. But dude, I asked you if you could give me some hints and tips on how to make my cookies softer. You never responded to that, Polo.
Throw down right now, increase fat, change your sugar. The higher the moisture content, that's usually what does it. If you're making a cookie that has like white sugar in it, typically it'll be a little bit more brittle. So there's a
Oh,
couple different things you can do. Like that's going to be just a crumblier, more brittle cookie. Caramelization can also get you there too, as in you're doing something where you're actually cooking the sugar to the point that it goes through like softball stage into sort of like crack stage, which is actually that's what it is. It's like where it browns a little bit and crisps, and that
hmm.
creates more of a crispy cookie. Brown sugar has molasses in it, like it's a more what's that moon sand? What's that sand that you can actually like compress it together and actually make a there's like a toy but that you can break it apart and refigure it, but so it has more of that sort of shapeable, sculptable kind of quality to it. But because of that, the chemically it's different. Like it's just chemically it's different in your recipe. One thing to be mindful of is that sugar is hygroscopic, so it actually draws water towards it. So finding that balance of a liquid cookie versus like a more flexy cookie versus another, usually what will help you with that is the fat that you use in there. Butter's more rich but less stable because it'll actually, it kind of it separates into its componentry. Oil will kind of get you really chewy, flexy cookies, but can also get you crispy. So these are the things you play with, and size and thickness too. So high temp, thin cookie typically will get crispy. So, dude, how many tweets? How many DM? Like that's all. There's the science, and then
Thank
it's
you.
just a matter of, as I tell my kids, and I used to tell the kids back in the day in hospitality class. The reason that I wasn't a big fan of baking is because it's closer to chemistry than artistry, and my brain just didn't appreciate that. I appreciated more the artistry. I understand the base skill. I have the base skill. But as far as what my brain just enjoyed doing more, it was not doing quantities and measures and absolute standardized recipes, which is that's the chemistry and physics of baking. Some people dig that. If you like procedural tasks and procedural writing and a step by step, make sure you maintain this and rigor, baking's the space for you. It really is. Yeah, it's like food science. Not like it is. It's closer to food science than throwing a burger on the grill. There's food science there, but really all you really have to know is that you've hit your 175, that you're not going to make your family sick. There's a lot more nuances with that damn cookie. That damn cookie.
Oh, right on. Well, thanks for the tip. In this cookie recipe, there is white sugar and brown sugar.
Try changing the quantity. What's the fat?
The fat is butter.
Yeah.
So should I add more brown sugar than white?
It'll make a flexier cookie.
That's what I'm looking for.
There's other factors. There's other things involved. There isn't more. We're like at 55 minutes.
I know. Sorry.
But I'll just say there's other factors as well. But try that. Adjust your sugar and see what it does. Now, understand you'll also adjust the flavor profile, right? Because white sugar tastes different than brown sugar.
Dude.
Do you see what I mean about being the scientist?
Yeah, but I just picture myself like Kramer in the kitchen, just playing with sugars and not paying attention to the other factors. So I got to be careful. I have to make 7 dozen. So I'm
That's no small undertaking, dude. You're gonna be in the kitchen between the cooling and the setting up. Like you're gonna be there like for 4 hours, maybe.
No, it's good. Don't say that. I don't have 4 hours, but it's the Kramer kitchen. Look at you. Your eyeballs just did that thing. There's that meme of that like I think it's a toy and it's got the big eyes and it's looking sideways like this. It did that to me.
Did I do it? I think it's the sock monkey puppet or whatever. Like
I'm gonna tweet you that you're not impressed with me right now, but
it's not that. If you can do this, if you can do 7 dozen, if you can get your 7 dozen done in like 3 hours, I'd be impressed. Between the setup and here's the deal.
Setup's ready. I just need to.
Here's the deal, though, and you did the right thing. You did some pre-prep. That's called mise en place. You're getting your mise ready, right? Putting everything in place. Sarah Lalonde out there. There we go. The mise. You got the mise right.
I wish I knew EDU. No, that's
Que Sera. Yeah. Podcast.
I don't know. I'm pushing. I wish I knew EDU. And Ramona's nowhere to be found.
Ramona's not even hanging with us today. That's all good. Oh, okay. So here's the thing, Beth. We got to push Beth. What's Beth's podcast? Into
the night. Into reading in the night.
Don't do that. Where's that even come from?
I don't know.
Into the night. She's just like this. She's like, click, I'm out.
I'll tell you what it is because it's read into this
podcast. Yeah, it's nowhere near what you said, but I don't even remember what we're talking about now.
I wish I knew EDU, baby.
No, you're locked on that for sure, but just before that.
About the mise en place and
mise en place. So if you can get your 7 dozen done in under 3 hours, even though you got how much time it took you this morning to set up, if you could do 7 dozen in under 3 hours, because I'm imagining they bake for at least 10 minutes.
12. I think it's 12.
Not bad for not looking at the recipe right though. Right. So 10 minutes. So right there, just in baking time alone.
These are 10 minutes.
What's that?
It's a standard. 10 minutes is standard. From my brief cookie baking experience, 10 minutes.
So you got 70 minutes there.
Dude, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I don't want to hear about the math. I don't want to.
Do you have 7 pans or at least 2 cookie? Are you doing double
4 pans?
Are you doing 2 pans at a time?
Yes.
You won't be happy. 1 pan does not turn out right.
Here's the thing, bro.
You know that. Wait. Just admit that. Like 1 pan does not turn out quite as good as the other pan. Admit it. It happens. Typically, unless you got, I don't know, you could have you could have the stove to beat all kitchen stoves, but typically you're putting 2 pans in. One of them is just not centered right because cookies are meant to be in the center of the oven, right?
Yes.
And there is only one. There's not 2 centers.
Listen,
Dude,
I
you better
gotta
you're prestiging this one.
listen. By the time, okay, so if I get off with you in the next 3 or 4 minutes,
Yep, 1 minute. We'll try and do
I'll
1 minute.
I'll go down, start the oven, and start. I've got everything out and ready. I'll just start mixing and whatever, matching
The Mies, say it. You got your Mies
the
ready.
meats. I got the meats ready, and then I think once I'm rolling, once they're going in the oven, coming out of the oven, I'm good. Like I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I have to leave for hockey at a certain time, so cookie making will stop at that
I'm
time.
saying 3 hours.
You know what I need to do if this doesn't work? I think I need to stop at the grocery store and pick up some cookies to mix into the ones I baked.
Oh my god, you're gonna be a Costco cowboy. You're going
Or like
right back
Sobeys
the
cowgirl. I
the
don't know.
Sobeys, yeah, the Sobeys,
Cow person.
sweets stealer, something like the cow person, yeah. But you're the clamshell. It doesn't matter where you get it. You're the clamshell cow person pretending like, yes, the only step better is if you put it on a wrapped plate, some decorative plate of your own. Do
No,
it.
I gotta buy boxes or something or bags to put them into because I have to make 7 dozen, but I have to split them into 14 bags. I can't even see the picture. The light is so white. It's a bowl with cigarettes in them.
I
Are
was thinking
those?
more incense. I
I'm
don't know. I was kind
sorry,
of
I don't
thinking
know, dude.
no, because I did have one before. Yeah, in the other coffee table book that I haven't made yet is the I did that memories. We had that memories episode talking about our dads and that strong memory of cigarette smoke. So it was a little bit like that. They do look like cigarettes now that I'm looking at it, but it's actually more my thoughts was more incense.
Mhm.
It's not, but yeah, I'm like, frig, I drew cigarettes. Cigarettes burning up in the air. That's okay. I don't argue with myself with the pictures. They just happen.
No, your pictures are good. It's my interpretation that's not.
I'm done.
Okay,
This has been you do. Can I do it this week?
let's go
This has
for it.
been season 5, episode 11. I'm Chris Clough.
I'm rolling Chidiac.
There we
And
go.
this a baking podcast or an educational talk podcast?
I don't know if I want to clout that one. I don't know if it's
Asking.
clout that. I don't want to be I don't want to have to somehow start talking about education on this podcast.
We're whatever we want on this podcast. How's that?
We're more than a podcast. Remember, what would we say? Doob
Dude,
Doobcasters? Doobcasters.
Doobcasters. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Decoded podcast more than a podcast.
Yep.
Okay. I gotta go bake cookies and listen to I Wish I Knew EDU episodes. Clock is ticking. Peace, bro.
Peace.